Welcome to Central News on TV Central. Are you getting the Manuka honey you think you're paying for? We caught up with a honey expert, James Jeffrey, to give the vital facts that anyone in the market for Manuka should be aware of.
What is special about New Zealand Manuka honey?
Well, throughout the world, Manuka honey's got a pretty high profile as opposed to any other honey. It's, at the moment, I think it stands as the most valuable honey in the world. People prize it for its natural health benefits. And it stems basically from some research that was carried out by Dr. Peter Mollen, who was actually worked at the Waikato University in the early 80s. He wanted to know why Manuka honey was just a little bit different to most other honeys. So he carried out this research and identified a special health property or an antibacterial property that existed within the Manuka honey that was over and above the naturally occurring antibacterial properties in other honeys. He found that the normal honeys that you can buy or that are produced contain a hydrogen peroxide based antibacterial activity that exists in the honey due to an enzyme that the bees add to the nectar that they collect during storage and processing in the hive. But the Manuka honey contained just something a little bit extra, and he discovered that it was a more stable, quite an extraordinary property that existed over and above the natural or normal antibacterial properties of other honey.
For those that don't know, what is MPA? So
the MPA is the property that Dr. Peter Mollen discovered. It stands for non-peroxide activity. So it's the property that is present in Manuka honey only, that exists over and above the naturally occurring hydrogen peroxide. It's also stems from the plant itself, so it's not there due to anything that the bees do. They have no influence on that at all. It's stable when exposed to light and moderate heat or any body fluids, whereas the other antibacterial properties of any honey, the peroxide-based or hydrogen peroxide-based activity is not stable. It diminishes and can become non-existent quite quickly.
How is this different to active?
Right, so when the initial discovery was made, Dr. Mollen coined the term active Manuka honey, and it was used to refer to the types of honey that he was researching that were active, the good stuff. As time has gone on, it's become more and more popular to refer to other types of honey or honey that maybe isn't or doesn't contain the special properties as active honey, because all honey has that activity that I sort of talked about. Its activity comes from what the bees do to the honey. So it's not inaccurate to say that your honey is active. It just doesn't describe effectively how good your honey is.
Why not just call everything active?
Yeah, well, I mean, you could do, but you're doing your customers a little bit of a disservice, because it's a confusing, loose, undefined term. It doesn't give the customer any assurance that what they're buying is going to do them the good that they expect it to. When somebody hears about or talks about Manuka honey, the profile that it has exists because of the research that was carried out in the 80s and focuses in on the non-peroxide activity. And if we simply referred to honey or all honeys as being active, we'd miss that part of the market or that property altogether.
How do we know we're getting the right honey?
Well, back in the early days after the research had been released, a group of beekeepers saw that it was important to ensure that their customers were going to get the genuine, real article, good honey, and they got together with Dr. Mullen and also representatives from the government, and they decided that it was important to put some standards around this industry, and when they came up with the idea of maybe a trademark or some sort of governing terms around it. So they initially thought it would be a good idea to register active as a name, as a trademark, that then you would be able to place some checks and balances around the production of active honey. They approached a patent attorney and they were informed that it's a pretty descriptive, loose term to try and trademark. So they decided to come up with something a little bit unique, and that's where Dr. Mullen and these people coined the phrase, or the acronym Unique Manuka Factor, or UMF. And the UMF Honey Association was born out of those initial meetings and that work that they did. And the UMF Honey Association puts in place some pretty stringent guidelines as to how we are to produce Manuka honey and how we are to market it and what our honey must contain. So whenever you're buying a product, if it contains the label and the logo UMF, then you're guaranteed to be getting the good stuff.
Are we paying too much money for honey that isn't giving us benefits?
Pretty black and white. If you're buying a honey that doesn't include UMF, you're getting probably something that isn't or doesn't contain non-peroxide activity, and that's just the same or very similar to any normal table honey that you would buy on a supermarket shelf. So it is important to know that NPA honey or UMF honey is the stuff that's going to provide you with the health benefits for yourself and your family. So if you're paying more than your average for a Manuka honey that doesn't contain or doesn't pretend or doesn't show the UMF logo, then you're paying too much.
Coming up next, we look at the new carers package and if this will be accepted.